Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Open House, and as you can see, I'm joined by Mr. Brian Cunningham. How are you, Brian?
Greg, very well, thank you.
Now, where have you been hiding for the last little while? Your face has popped up in the paper in the last little bit with regards to Port, but what have you been up to?
Look, I left the government. I'd done work in government, running 2 large government departments for 5 and a bit years, and left at the end of April and running my own consultancy now and doing some work with various clients, including the local government association, and recently I have been in the press a little bit with Port Adelaide.
They want you back, mate.
No, I don't think it's necessarily that.
I
think it's interesting when you read about footy in South Australia. It's in a pretty difficult state at the moment. Port Adelaide in particular, both financially challenged and not performing on the field. So if I can help them in the first of those, then I will.
What is your capacity? Quite seriously, I did notice that you are heading back there. In what capacity is it?
Well, it's not quite as big as I think the media make it out. It's basically trying to help the club in what we see as a hiatus, a period of time where the club's really challenged financially over the next 2 to 3 years. I think the Adelaide Crows similarly are going to be challenged before the Adelaide Oval thing comes on stream, because Adelaide Oval will produce a lot more yield for both clubs. And in the meantime, Port Adelaide have got to find significant sponsors and build their corporate base, build their membership base up. So my role was really getting a group of corporates together along with the board and Mark Haseman for Port Adelaide, trying to get a brand of Port Adelaide out there that says this club has got a place to go and get behind it.
Wasn't going to go to this quite so early, but you've led me in. Dear old Timmy Ginniver and Georgie Fiarchi are saying one club. Okay, so I'm assuming the Magpies and the Power, bring them together. What's your view on that?
Well, I guess I was acutely involved in that, Greg, way back in February when that proposal was put through the directors of the SNFL clubs and the Football Commission. I was on the Football Commission at that point in time. Didn't get up. I think it was a good commercial arrangement. I think that notwithstanding both clubs are struggling, when you put them together and you build the massive Port Adelaide support behind it, then I think it probably works. So I favour it. I do support it. It'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, okay. Well, I hope it does get up, because talking to Timmy and to George, it certainly seems to make a lot of sense. And let's hope for the sake of the Port Adelaide Footy Club and South Australian football, it does actually get up.
Well, it's a legacy of what happened some years ago when we won the licence to come in. We actually went into that arrangement saying that Port Adelaide will move from the SNFL to the AFL, but then the conditions put on the licence agreement were, well, Port Adelaide, you better have a side in the SNFL as well, because the SNFL needs Port Adelaide in it. That was the decision made at the time. In reflection, probably not the best decision.
Okay, hindsight, beautiful thing. Brian, one of the most highly held CEOs. Everybody sort of says you've done a sensational job, both at Port Adelaide and then with the TAFEs?
No, I ran 2 large government departments. The Department of Further Education, Employment, Science, Technology, which is a 6,000 person department.
6,000?
Yeah, $480 million budget. And I ran recently, the last 18 months, Department of Trade and Economic Development.
Okay, all right. So now what actually are you doing? Are you helping other board members, or what? When you say consultancy, let's drill down a little bit. What actually are you doing?
Well, I'm actually looking for board positions at the moment. Commercial boards is where I'm placing myself. I've picked up one really good commercial board in Seal International. I'm really pleased with that. Looking for others, doing some consultancy as well. I'm chairing a board for the local government association, a major project that they're running for 6 months, and I've got an executive team working on that. And it's about something in relation to your field, trees on public land. And if you see what's happened over the last weekend with the various storms that have happened around South Australia, it's a pretty big issue when you get trees falling on property, cars, and sometimes people. So councils are looking for a way that they can better manage trees, because this will only happen even more in the future with climate change and stronger storms and longer dry spells. So it's quite an interesting project for me. That's one of the 3 or 4 pieces of work I'm doing at the moment.
Really well done. Whatever you do, I'm sure you'll do really, really well, because you're a passionate fella. The cultural differences between a football club and a government body, I reckon, would be poles apart. Am I right?
Can be. Culture is very interesting. It's all about people, as you know, and
Yeah.
that's what business is about, people. I found when I went into both government departments and coming out the other side, were they better departments when I left because my role was generally around culture change. Footy clubs very much act on a basis of team and the way team works, very similar to the way I guess you would do your work with Brock Harcourt's. Government doesn't work on a team basis. It's very individualistic, and I guess that flows from the fact of the way that politics is. That's not a criticism. I love my 5 years in government, learnt an enormous amount. But if you talk of culture, I really enjoy working in an environment where you actually work with people and you build and you have success and everyone shares in that success. And I don't think that happens as much in government. I'm probably, that's my biggest take out of government, that the issue of team has never been something that government departments have really done all that well, and there's still a lot of work to do there.
Who are you answerable to? Which poly were you answerable to?
I was, quite a few. I had Steph Key as my first minister, which was the training portfolio. Paul Kiker, who's now moved on to water in that portfolio as well. The most recent one, Trade and Economic Development, responsible to the Premier for Economic Development, Deputy Premier for Industry and Trade, and then I had Paul Holloway for regional and small business. Other way around. I had Paul Kiker for regional and Holloway for small business. I had 4 ministers in my last portfolio, which kept me running around, I have to say.
So you had Mr. Foley. How's he?
He's good. Yeah, he's good.
Outside persona, you go, my God, how do you sort of manage that?
No, he's a good man. There's no question of that, and he's done a lot for the state, and I guess the legacy that he'll leave if the Adelaide Oval thing goes, and that whole precinct of the Riverside precinct and the Torrens will be a nice, well, one of the feathers in, I think, his cap.
We'll end up with a Foley statue if that happens, I reckon, mate. We'll. Hey, just government, and it's really interesting what's happened with the federals. Have we got it right? Is the way that we're doing politics right?
I take a lot of interest in politics
You
nowadays.
do,
I have to.
yeah.
I do, and I learned a lot out of the 5 years, and I wasn't, my role was really with state government. But I look at amazement at the way that it's working through. I worry about it. I guess the proof will be in the pudding when they start to make decisions, and whatever the decision, and by the time this goes to where I'm sure we know whether it's Labor or Liberal that get in, but how those decisions are compromised by independents, that worries me enormously.
Yeah.
But it should worry everyone enormously. But no, I think politics has got a bit of rejigging to do over the course of the next 5 years. Hopefully this starts now.
Well, I reckon you're the man to do it, so just get involved and see what you can do.
I've done my little bit in government. I'm doing other things now.
Let's leave government. Your best experiences while you're at the POW?
I really enjoyed setting up the club, getting a licence into the AFL. That was exciting times. In that period from 1992 to 97, setting up the club, trying to get players, like key players, the Gavin Wanganese, the Matty Primuses, and all of those players that we had very minimal concessions. Adelaide had probably more concessions than we did, but we could get 4 uncontracted players. That was fun, going around Australia trying to recruit the best team. And of course, at the end of the journey, when you win a premiership in 2004, it happened to be my swan song year, so that was quite nice.
Went out on top. If you're still in the seat now, what are you thinking of the Gold Coast concessions and the Greater Western Sydney concessions? It's just unbelievable.
I can't believe that there's an agreement to it. I can't work out how clubs have agreed to it, because the concessions are absolutely enormous. It's creating major issues. You can see both with Adelaide Footy Club and Port Adelaide with the players that have left. That'll happen with other clubs over the course of the journey. They want that club to succeed, and there's nothing wrong. I think the AFL's view of expanding the competition to northern states, where you've got massive population growth, and particularly in New South Wales and southern Queensland, is a great move, no question about that. How much it affects the traditional states, and I reckon South Australia is in a really, really poor state at the moment. We've got 2 clubs that aren't in finals. We've got a whole range of issues around financial sustainability of one of them, and then you're taking players away. So I reckon the AFL have got to give a hand up to South Australia, and they haven't at at this point in time over the last 10 years.
It's interesting talking to Triggy. They'll have a bit of red ink on the bottom of their page for the first time in a long, long time. So gone from,
$2
enormous
million
amount of money in the bank,
Yep.
which they have spent obviously down on their facility, to red ink, and then not a strong performance on. It's going to be very interesting over the next 2 or 3 years.
Bigger issue is footy in South Australia and the interest that we're getting less crowds, so the crowds are falling, memberships are falling, but you'd expect maybe on the reverse of that, maybe TV would be going up, but it's actually going down as well. So that's why I think there's major issues there.
Adelaide Oval, will that fix it?
That'll help, big issue, but I'm not sure that'll be ready till 2015 or 14, 15,
they're saying
16.
14, so let's say 15, 16.
Okay. It will be great for both clubs.
Yeah.
It'll be fantastic. Your phone's going.
Yeah, sorry about that, Brian.
I think there's 535 million good reasons why Adelaide Oval should go.
Yeah, and I liked the approach of the government. If you don't accept it, it's off the table, so you will accept it.
You'll never, ever get an opportunity like that for
again.
Sport, footy and cricket again.
Yeah. Righto, outside of work, what do we get up to, Brian?
Well, I love working. I've been chief executive for 18 years, and I probably ended up in that 18 years spending a lot of time working, a bit like you, where
I'm not sure I'm a great example.
Night, weekends, and now I'm enjoying my weekends with my own business. But I do like sport. I do like, I've got family, so spend a bit more time with them. I've got a property up in the hills, 4 or 5 acres that takes a lot of work for me at Aldgate, so I spend a bit of time on that. And if I can get a game of golf in occasion, I will. And love travelling. My wife works for Phil Hoffman Travel, and that's a good plug for them.
Yeah.
And we do get away a bit, so enjoy all of that.
All right. What's your favourite destination so far?
Well, I'd have to say when I river cruise along in Europe, that was about 18 months ago. That was fabulous. Canada's a fantastic place. I really enjoyed Canada for the scenery. And so there's lots of good places.
There you go. I was born in Canada, Brian. Did you go to Toronto?
I have been to Toronto, but not this trip. But,
magical. So I was Calvary Hospital. Visit that next time.
Is that your birthplace? Oh, gosh.
Brian, serious note, thank you very much for joining us. Really, really highly regarded individual. Done enormous things for South Australia, both from government, from government and also the footy side of things. We really wish you all the very best with your new ventures. But thank you very much for joining us on Open House, Brian.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, mate.
Good man.
Good on you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Brian Cunningham. As you can see, just what you see is what you get. Enormously talented, sincere fella. We'll be back after the break.